It being 6 o'clock, I call the Selectmen's meeting.
5:30.
Good. It being 5:30, I call the Selectmen's meeting to order. I make a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91-A:3-2B. Session 1.
Seconded.
I don't know if there's a, yeah, that's session 1. Roll call vote.
Say yes.
Barry, yes.
Goodson, yes.
Prentice, yes.
Roberts, yes. 5 yes. 0 no. We are in non-public at 5:31 p.m. I make a motion to come out of non-public at 6 o'clock.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Say yes.
Barry, yes.
Goodson, yes.
Prentice, yes.
Roberts, yes. 5 yes, 0 no. We are now to non-public at 6 o'clock. Is there any changes or additions to the agenda?
Yes, there is a part-time highway wage rate
There is not.
discussion.
That's already.
It's already on
But
there.
it was added after it was posted, I think
Yeah.
is what she said.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Part-time highway wage rate discussion.
Is
Increase.
the Zoom coming up?
Zoom is on.
Oh, the
TV
TV
just
is just
isn't.
not on.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
Do we have that non-public thing, like that sheet to see A, B, C?
Thanks, Ed.
It's usually.
What
would we do without you?
I'll send you an invoice.
Yeah.
It's in the basket.
Maureen, can you
What
hear
is
us?
Do you want to tell me what it is? I can't remember.
It's,
We're good, thank you.
Oh, good. Okay.
Let's see.
yeah, we'll go with it.
Other things to add, we need to add a special meeting of the select board for, personnel hiring for the police department. And we need to add a conversation about, deeded property sales.
And I need
These
to
are
add,
two at the bottom of the agenda.
No, those
right?
are both public.
Okay.
I need to add a non-public under RSA 91-A:3-2C, and that'll be session 4. Is there any other changes or additions to the agenda? Hearing none. Public input? Is there any public input?
Hi, I am Emery. This is Jim Diamond. I was listening to the meeting last week, but I wasn't listed in the minutes. But I was, so the minutes didn't list me as attending, but I was.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay. Do we need a motion
Yeah.
to change the
Good
minutes?
That we do it when we.
Even if I had nothing to say, I'm usually here.
Yep,
Yeah.
thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think you skipped over part-time highway wage rate.
That was for changes or additions. I was gonna get to that when we get to new business. I was just doing the non-public, public input first.
So that was for the
Oh,
15th?
that's on twice.
Yeah, so we'll just amend that when
Yeah.
we get there.
Is there any other public input? No public input. Part-time highway wage rate discussion, increase discussion. Richard?
Yeah, it's my feeling that right now the part-timers get $19.50 an hour, and I'd like to get at least to 20 for the rest of the year. As everybody knows, the rates are going right out of the sky, and it's hard enough finding people, even at that. And, I've looked around at some of the other towns, and most of them get between, $21 to $25 an hour for the part-time help. And I want to finish out this year, if I can, with that, and then when we do the new budget, I'm going to increase it more. That when somebody can go to Dunkin' Donuts, McDonald's, and make $16, $18 an hour, you can't expect somebody to stay around all weekend for that.
I make a motion to increase the part-time highway wage rate to $20 an hour.
Second.
Discussion?
How many people do you hire on part-time in the winter?
There's usually 2.
Okay.
It depends, and there's other ones that, we'll fill in if I need them.
Yeah.
There's really pretty much just one that is there during the winter.
Yes, Monday.
Did they get an increase last year?
Yes, when we did budget, we increased it. I can't remember from what. but-
16 to
16.
1950.
Yep. Roll call vote.
You say yes?
Barry, yes?
Goodson, yes.
Prentice, yes.
Roberts, yes. 5 yes, 0 no. Alright, is that all for that, I guess?
Thank you.
Department head update, with Dana,
Good evening.
Chief of Police.
I think in last week I sent over the stats for August. That wrapped up our summer activity with a busy month. Things remain steady, trying to do some catch up and admin stuff as well. Drug take back, the second installment of the year will be October 29th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Anybody can bring their unwanted, expired, or medications to the PD lobby and drop them in a box, and we'll dispose of them through the state's coordinated drug take back. Just no sharps, no liquids, no devices with batteries such as vape pens, and no recreational drugs. Met with the architect, following through with that whole plan we started in motion. They had some preliminary drawings about 4 different layouts that they kind of looked at. They're pretty much all similar, but with little tweaks here and there. So it was a good meeting. Just interesting to see how it might play out or whatever. And then the end result is, you know, some sort of plan that we agree on, and then, you know, what that would cost to do, and then that will end up going to the CIP or the board or whatever to make a determination if that's something they want to do or not. So that's moving along. Last week the board appointed a recruit officer to fill the patrolman's position. He will be going to the academy in January. We'll be bringing him on in a few weeks here, or a couple weeks, to start training with us in-house. So look forward to a new face. I also gave an offer to somebody for the sergeant's position, which they have accepted. So we're just going to wrap up their certified officer, 24 years experience. So that's going to bring a big plus to us. I just need to wrap up the background on that. And we did cruiser inspections this month. Everything passed. The oldest one there, the 2013, needed batteries. That was about it. That vehicle is going to be taken off the road as a pursuit type vehicle or response vehicle and be made into a service vehicle. It's just at its end of life, and I wouldn't want to put it in on the road as a response vehicle. So that vehicle will get stripped down with light bar will come off and the lettering will come off. And the recruit officer will actually be using that to go back and forth to the academy rather than paying mileage. The only other thing I had was the Reach the Beach. Reach the Beach,
How did that go?
yeah. I don't want to speak poorly to the cause or the race in itself, nor do I necessarily want to speak to the runners' entirety. You know, I mean, I have friends that run in that race. But every year this brings a tremendous amount of burden into the community and hazard to the community. If those of you don't know, they run from Cannon all the way down to Hampton Beach. It's a 24-hour relay, and it's not like a straight shot down there. They run every back road and this and that. This year there was a tremendous drop in coordination and communication from Ragnar. There was a new point of contact for us, and they failed to have details, not just in our town, but other towns as well. Police details in order to keep people safe, because there's parts where the runners have to cross the road. So they're required to have police details, and they failed to secure those. So they had to put flaggers out there to stop runners instead, because you can't just put anybody in the road that's not certified, flagger or whatever, to stop traffic. So they ended up having to stop the runners instead to wait for traffic to clear up so they can keep running. My mindset at this point is not to sign the permit for next year and have them go around Tamworth. We can discuss it further when next year comes around, but it becomes a tremendous burden to the community. And we get, multiple complaints. We've had complaints of people, urinating on people's lawns, sleeping, roadside, can't see the runners. And my feeling is the runners, some of the runners run like it's a closed course, when in reality it's Friday night traffic. And then the vans drive like they're in the Cannonball Run and are trying to, hell-bent to get wherever they need to go. And they seem to just disobey all the traffic laws and whatever. Tim and myself put flagging and grade stakes down Durrell Road because in years past, the vans end up lining up there and that road gets down to one lane. So we blocked it off. Well, I didn't have enough to go all the way, and sure enough, where I didn't put it, right across from the rec field, a van was laying there. Van was there with somebody laying on the ground in front of it. And, I moved them along, and they later sent an email apologizing, but it just, to me, I don't really know it doesn't really benefit the community directly. The school, the 8th grade class has gotten money from it in the past. This year they couldn't fulfill all that because they didn't have help. So next year I don't think they'd have any interest in doing it, but I don't want to speak for them. But that's the only plus side to what the community gets out of it in the past. So anyways, that's my thoughts, and I don't foresee us renewing that permit next year.
Have you conveyed your feelings to the race organizers?
Not yet. Well, I did the day of. But I'm sure there'll be some follow-up emails to come. The guy in the past was a pretty good, and I'm not speaking necessarily ill of the new point of contact. He just may not have been, he may have been overwhelmed or whatever. The point of contact in the past has always taken whatever I've had for changes and made the changes. But the reality is the race and the setup of it, to me, just it brings a lot of people in. You can't drive through town during that part. The runners on the road. I mean, knock on wood, nobody's got hurt, but it just seems like it's only a matter of time.
I think if they've come through Tamworth for many years and we're thinking that we don't want them anymore, I think it makes sense to get that message to them soon so they can find another job.
I will have a follow-up email with them at some point. I figured I'd let things blow over first, and it was just last Friday. So, other than that, I don't really have anything else.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
So they do have something I just need to get
Yeah.
signed from last week.
Do you have a start date for the new sergeant? Or any thoughts on when that might be?
Well, depending on board approval, it'll be within the next 2 or 3 weeks.
So the new business that I added was, she is unavailable next Thursday. So in order to because there's all of the checks that have to go through, if possible, for us to have a meeting Wednesday at 5 to do the interview with her, so that Dana can start this process, because if it all works out to have her hired, because she's an experienced officer already,
Wednesday the 28th.
Wednesday the 28th, yeah, she can then share that training with the patrolman,
The recruit
the
officer,
recruit
yeah.
officer who's coming on.
Did you say that meeting was gonna be at 5?
I have a planning board meeting at 6, so I mean, it could be at 5:30. That's better for people coming out of work.
I just wasn't sure you said the time.
I said 5, but I just made that up.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the.
It's fine with me.
Yeah, that'll work.
5?
4:30 is better for me, but I can skip the other thing if I have to. The good government training, it's like 7 weeks long.
Oh,
It
yeah,
starts at
well, let's
5.
do 4:30 then.
4:30 it is.
So can you, Emily, make sure that gets noticed?
Yep.
Anything else? Dana?
Thanks,
All right.
Dana.
Thank you for coming in tonight.
Yeah, if I could just grab that form before I.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we
I
have
think
to
you
finish
have it.
signing it.
Oh, look at
Yeah.
that, I do have it.
No, it only has to be numbered once.
Oh, I just...
White out.
It'll just make it look like I didn't know what my name was. It's okay.
On to Nelson O'Brien with the conservation easement discussion.
Anyway, Emery, thank you. Did all of you get the information that I sent out?
Yes.
All right, good. The purpose for my asking to be on the agenda tonight was just to apprise the selectmen of our conservation easement proposal that's in the works. Just to let you know that it's out there, give you a chance to ask questions, raise objections. I'm not looking for any kind of approval tonight, just a discussion. So, the property in question is on Cleveland Hill Road, about 414, lot 96.1, owned by Scott Aspinall. It's 57 acres. It has two frontages on Cleveland Hill Road, if you look at the map. One is the driveway, which is on the eastern side, and there's another, a little bit wider part on the west side. What Scott is proposing is that he would donate conservation easement on most of that lot, with the exception that he wishes to hold out about 4 acres or more for a building lot. And he already has this lot up for sale. The property, particularly the northern part of that section, is mostly front ledge. It's an area that the Conservation Commission has looked at for quite some time. We think that it's something that deserves to be protected because of its steep slopes and the fact that it's quite rich in wildlife habitat. So the Conservation Commission has gone over this and recommends that we proceed with it. And I've given you some information there. As I said, the cost of doing this would be borne by the Conservation Commission using its conservation funds, no operating funds. With that preamble, I would entertain any questions that you might have, anything I might have left out, any other comments that you might have.
I just, I do remember in the discussion it being said that it was part of the wildlife corridor between the Hemingway State Forest and the land that's already in conservation. So it like allows for a highway of conservation land.
That is correct.
for
That
the
is one
wildlife.
of the main reasons that it has always been sort of high on the list of potential easement sites in Tamworth.
Is this the same lot that Scott has a building on, or is that the lot close to the street?
All right, Scott has a building on it. It's right at the top of the driveway, and that would be included in the holdout section along with the driveway itself. So the part that he wishes to carve out is essentially right above lot 96, and then goes all the way to the east side and then down to the road.
Where does the money for actually funding the easement come from?
It's the conservation fund, which we have for conservation purposes. And so that would include, in this case, since he's donating the easement,
Oh, okay.
he's donating the easement, so the
Gotcha.
costs are the necessary surveying and whatever legal expenses are required to draft the document and have it filed.
What is gonna be the where do I wanna use?
Tax
As far as the
impact?
taxes,
Tax impact?
It has no impact on taxes. Most of the property is already in current use.
But doesn't
Sorry?
current land use still pays taxes?
Yes.
Yeah, small percentage.
But I mean, if it goes into conservation, they pay nothing,
Oh,
correct?
no.
No, conservation
They
easement
still
pays.
pay?
Yeah,
Only
yeah.
taxes.
It makes no difference on the tax base of the property, because it's just for conservation. It's still a woodlot. It can be used for growing crops if you wanted to, or you can harvest timber. So it can still be a money-making operation. So its taxes are going to be the same as they are right now, until somebody builds something on that part of it which is not in conservation easement. In actual fact, his taxes will actually go up a little bit because he will have to take that out of
That's
current use.
penalty to take it out.
And so, as soon as that happens, the lot will be taxed as a buildable lot, and I don't know what that is in the assessor, in the tax assessors.
Yes.
I don't know if you can, anybody can answer this, but what's the percentage of land in Tamworth that's in conservation?
If you include all of the covenants in Shakoroa, and I think it's around 40%.
That's why our taxes are so high.
yeah.
Quite a bit of it, there's a lot of land.
A lot of land, I mean, still paying tax on it.
But not that
Not as
they
much.
were building lots or
Same as,
something.
same as the current use.
Right, yeah.
And you'd
yeah.
be a fool not to put your land in current use if you have enough. So, anyway, I don't see a downside to it.
I see only pluses.
Yes.
I think Leanne asked about where the money comes from, but where does the conservation fund get their money?
It is, we get $7,500 or less, depending on how much it is, from the land use change tax each year. It also has some monies that are donated to the Conservation Commission. So those are the two sources of
And the
income.
land use change tax would be if somebody took their land out of
Conservation, of current use, yes.
out of current use, then you pay the penalty, so you get some of that.
We get some of that.
So the benefit for the landowner is that because he has it on the market, is that it's gonna be surveyed and subdivided at the
And no, not
conservation?
subdivided.
No?
The survey is just to indicate which portion of the property will be under conservation easement. The lot itself will not be subdivided, and in fact, the language of the,
So because it's for sale, it's one whole thing, but some of it will be in conservation?
What's the difference between between conservation and current use?
well, I'm not an expert on current use, nor should I say I'm an expert on conservation easement. Conservation easements generally have a lot more restrictions than current use, but they are actually very similar.
And like with current use, it's not permanent because you can pay the penalty to take it out.
Right.
With conservation, it's permanent.
It is permanent, yes.
Okay, so that would probably be.
That's the big difference. In both cases, let's see, if you were to build on a conservation easement, say it's allowed, if you wanted to build a sap house, that's allowed. If you wanted to build a barn, if you have cattle, that's allowed. But you can't build a commercial establishment, nor can you build a residential establishment.
All right. I guess that's all I have for questions. I think. It seems like there's a big ledge. It's pretty steep ground, so it's probably not really
It probably
buildable
is not,
or developable.
although
Well, anyway.
You think of some of the properties, let's say in California, where they've got houses over the ledge. So, you know, you think, well, maybe in 100 years from now, somebody will want to do that, but I don't know. I'm not going to worry about it.
All right. Anything else?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for coming in today.
We will keep you apprised of what goes on. Kelly will probably be your conduit here.
What's the timeline typically?
There is none.
Okay,
The first thing that will have to happen is we'll have to be surveyed.
yep. Okay.
Rob Farnham.
So he texted me and he's running a little bit late, his
We'll skip
childcare
it.
fell through, so
We'll
if we
skip
could do
over
the next
that.
one.
Yep. Select board alignment of select board title discussion.
That was me. So in town, we have the school board, we have the planning board, we have the conservation commission, and we have the board of selectmen. So they're grammatically aligned differently, and board of selectmen is, to me, an old-fashioned phrase. So I would just like to have us officially, unofficially consider ourselves the select board, because you're starting with what the title is, and the board is what we do. So I looked it up, the RSAs, you can call yourself Board of Selectmen, you can call yourself Select Board. Somebody at one point, I think, said, oh, no, you have to be called the Board of Selectmen, not in New Hampshire. Just seems like it aligns with all the other committees and boards we have in town better.
I'm not sure, what are the towns around us, what titles do they use? I haven't noticed, but do you know?
I did not look.
So this is just to, like, on official documents, or,
I'm suggesting that it be official, yeah, which is
Yeah.
why, I mean, I refer to us as the select board when I talk to people, but
like on our documents and
Yeah.
things like that?
Because it's already that way.
Because
on
it
the
says
agenda,
select board
hasn't it?
meeting. So I guess it says select board
well,
here.
but Keats, I think Keats has been changing that slowly.
Okay,
Um,
just for clarification,
Yeah.
so we're just making it like a decision to change it
I-
everywhere.
Was the planning board ever the planning man?
the board of planning men. I don't know. Maybe.
I think that's probably why they called it the planning board in the first place.
But I'm sure they were all men at one time. So yeah.
I guess I just like the tradition.
Yeah.
How many years has it been
Yeah.
selectmen?
Well, how many years has the world been run by men? But we
And
can change
there's
that.
been at least 5 or 6 women selectmen.
Somebody's gonna be old fashioned.
I will look to see what
Is
other
there any
towns
other-
refer to themselves as, but I think it's a timely change.
Fair enough.
Tradition aside, there are some good traditions we should hold on to. I completely agree.
And I guess for me, I just would like to know, like, in what platform, like, we have to inform other agencies that are contacting us, like, what?
The RSA says that you can, the town can decide what you're called, you know, like I can look to see if there's gotta be an official vote, we can ask
Are we
Christine.
making a motion on this?
I don't know,
Um,
but it's.
We're discussing it right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, if we,
I'm surprised there's
I
an
don't-
RSA on the name of something.
I don't really care what we call ourselves. I honestly
the fine lady
I'm
select people of Tamworth.
happy with whatever we decide, but I think this is personally a little bit of a waste of time to discuss this.
Okay,
Like,
well,
if we want to make a motion and change it, I'm totally okay with that. But
I'm trying to go for public disclosure instead of just making unilateral changes,
fair enough, I guess.
right? I mean, we should talk about it if we're gonna start referring to ourselves differently. That's what I'm trying to do.
I guess for me, Leanne, I would need to understand, like, the whole process of it, like, are we, I don't know.
I don't know if it sounds like there isn't one. We make.
We just-
I will find out, I will bring the RSA next week,
Okay,
and I will find out if we have to do anything other than have this conversation officially to make a change.
Is the RSA specific to this issue, or is it a
It's
bigger
what-
one that is one of
The RSA is basically what you can refer to yourself if you're on this board.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked it up when I was running because we made signs and somebody had said Kelly couldn't have signs that said select board, they had to say
It's like
select.
woman.
Okay, so I looked it up to see if what you had to have on your, when you were referring to yourself. So, it said in New Hampshire you're called Board of Selectmen or Select Board. I did not see
I'm a select
anything about
person.
select woman. And you can refer to yourself as a select person.
For some reason, there was a residence that thought I would say
Yeah.
that I was running for a select woman position, and that is
Yeah.
not a thing. I did not.
I'll come
that I was
back
gonna
and we'll
do that,
spend a
but-
little bit more time.
Okay, all right,
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing it up.
thank you.
Rob's here now, so.
On to Rob Farnham with the sewer committee presentation.
Trying to use it up front.
Wherever
you'd like to
sit, stand, whatever
Wherever you want to go.
I'll consider it up here.
Congratulations
Yeah.
on getting that.
Good. All right, well, I'm gonna hand these out to everybody just to begin with, so everybody kind of have a little synopsis as to what.
Are they the ones you gave us?
Yeah, I think we have them.
We
You guys
got,
get 'em already?
yeah, you could share them in the
I'll keep
audience,
this
we
one
got
too.
them printed.
Perfect, excellent. So, I've been working with a group of
So there's two
volunteers,
documents, I'll hand out my copy if
Yeah.
you want.
and there is some other facts
I got one too.
So, anyways, continuing forward, thank you for
Do you want
pausing.
to just hand some in the back if anybody wants?
I think they've got long
Do they have
copies.
one?
Thank you. I got a bunch. So that's the fact sheet, is what that is. There's a couple copies there. And this is what we're going over tonight. Come back. Thank you. All right, so, anyways, as I was saying, I've been working with a volunteer group of individuals to go over basically the problem that we have in the village of our wastewater, and the lack of the ability to expand, the availability to expand. Anyway, so I'll kind of go over the summary here a little bit as to what it is and what we're proposing to put forth to the select board, that we'd like to go forward and try to maybe move on. Doesn't have to be tonight necessarily, but looking towards the future. Of course, as most of you know, I am the chair of the current septic system committee. Sorry, just got a lot going on. It's just busy. Anyways, we are looking to source some of the ARPA funding for the sum of about $30,000 to have two phases moving forward in looking at what we can actually do. So sort of a research in the whole thing. The first phase is obviously a conceptual design, for about $5,000, and then the engineering and design and permitting of the system, which would go forward with, obviously, if we decide to go forward with it, about $25,000 to do that. Feasibility assessment would not commit the town to any specific course of action, but would provide some alternatives to relieve the current overcapacity situation with the existing system. Any decisions to move forward would have to be approved by a vote at town meeting. So obviously it's not a select board decision or a sewer commission decision, it's a town decision. The feasibility assessment would be done with the assumption that the cost of construction would be fully paid for by grant funding, and the project would not go forward if the grant funding cannot be secured. The operation of the system would be supported by user fees, so the people who are tied onto it, obviously, it would not be a town taxed system per se, as the taxpayer who is not tied to it would not have to pay for it. Kind of like the system is now. A little bit of the background of what this group has been doing. We've been meeting for, I think Kelly might know more about this, but about a month and a half now.
2 months maybe.
About 2 months. So we are a volunteer group of residents looking to explore the options of the town's sewer capacity in a way that can accommodate the town's needs for economic development and growth. As the Board of Selectmen is aware, the current sewer system is obviously over capacity. Current sewer system is over capacity, serving the downtown residents and the businesses per DES regulations, and DES knows that as well. The current system has a built-in sort of bare bones system. It was obviously designed to suffice the needs of the moment in time that it was developed and designed, which worked, but the problem is it didn't allow for growth to happen. It lacks a lot of the modern features that come with newer systems, or the space restriction developments, or things of that nature that come with modern 2020 systems instead of 2000 systems. Anyways, continuing on. There's a widespread agreement that investing and expanding in the current system would be sort of unwise, because the system is pretty much at its max, and there's sort of this thing, why keep beating the horse that's already beaten type ideas, that we need to look into new systems that are moving forward to develop the ability to actually expand the business district and the village area per se.
Or even come into compliance.
Or even come into compliance, correct. I mean, a lot of it is just to get us to that, obviously the zero phase. We have to get to zero before we can sort of move forward with any sort of expansion. It'd be particularly useful to have it on this side of the river. That was kind of one of the things that we came up with, is that the other side of the river, this half uses about 15,000 gallons is what the allotment is for just this half of the river. So the thing is that even if there was a system to be added on this side, there is still a sort of a capacity amount, and we don't know if we can do something that's in the 20,000 gallon range again, but we'd still be restricted once we hit that, over that 5,000 mark.
What's the existing system again, gallon-wise?
The current design system is 19,300.
Okay, so you're
So-
talking about comparable size.
It would basically be comparable size, yeah.
And that's mainly because if you get above 20,000, it has to have a water treatment.
Right.
And it's a bigger system
It
overall.
becomes a sewer
Yeah.
instead of, yeah.
Correct. You either have to have basic groundwater monitoring, which involves drilling wells and having it tested fairly regularly, which technically we could probably do with the system we have now. And the thing is that it's more or less trying to decide whether putting in another system of the same size, or if we need to look at doing something that can handle 50,000 gallons. There is also a space restriction that we have to deal with, both here and across the street, across the river. So there's of course a lot of parts that move simultaneously, but every key has to move in the right direction in order to make it work. So, anyways, sort of continue on. And DES will not approve any application for additional usage. This means that existing businesses in Tamworth that want to expand are not able to, and that no new businesses or residents can be connected to the system. This essentially means the town cannot grow its downtown core in any way. So we are, the wastewater system is restricting our ability to allow for businesses to function as they wish, modify and use or change, and new businesses to be able to open up, and residents to also be able to modify their existing properties. That's another thing too. So, of course, if you have any questions or need some more information on the old stuff, or would like to kind of know more, I'm more than happy to try to
Yeah, I have a
fill in the
question.
blanks.
Why is it the town's responsibility to take care of a new resident or a new business who wants to come in here? Why can't they put in their own septic system?
So, you mean like in the town area?
Yeah, because in this town here, I put 5 or 6 of these years ago, and all of a sudden they're shut down and we don't use them anymore. I could never really understand that, why they were forced to hook onto the sewers, because it went by.
They weren't forced.
They weren't, no, I'm just asking,
No.
no, Kyle, but there's some septic systems here in town. that-
Yeah, I mean, Carl,
I have one.
he has
You
one.
did, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's,
When the new system was built,
yeah,
it seemed prudent to me to hook
do
up to it.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm just curious,
Yeah,
yeah.
but,
And you're not allowed to pull out from it now, right?
well, I could start using the one I have in my backyard, but I'd still have to pay the
You have
fees.
to pay for the.
So
Oh,
it
that's
would-
what it is.
Yeah.
Would-
Yeah.
correct, yeah.
Would they still, would your
Assessment,
assessment still go toward the,
Yes.
I don't know whether how the state would deal with that.
So you're saying, oh,
Like
toward
if
the gallonage,
if
he
there was
to-
people in town that were on the town septic
Yeah.
that had their own septic and started using it again, or put in a whole new septic, would they be taken off of the assessment?
With that free capacity.
I
okay.
don't know.
Seems
The
like-
thing is the state's more
They were
concerned.
completely disconnected from it.
Right. Like if you were to unhook service and basically say we're not using you anymore. I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming yes, that it would. But the thing is, the state's looking at the financial end of it. They're looking at the numbers and they're saying as long as the bills are being paid, because there's a minimum that was required to be taken by the existing system for the repairs that were done back in 2018. It was written into the deeds of every property that's tied on the system that you have to pay this amount. And if you are to not pay this amount, every bit of funding that was raised or that was given to the town by the state would have to be refunded back to them. It was
To
basically
to Richard's point, if somebody has room for their own system, they're welcome to do that.
right.
Okay.
In fact, the nurses are considering expanding at the back of this building, and they are thinking about not
Yep.
hooking up to the town sewer. They're considering a system underneath the parking lot.
And that's
So-
because they couldn't expand on the current septic that they are tied
Well-
to.
We're gonna eliminate one bathroom here and add one there. So,
But you're adding a lot of square foot.
But,
They're only going to that.
yeah.
Right.
Obviously, we need to come, if we're over capacity, obviously, I think that needs to, because
Yeah.
eventually,
Oh, yeah.
DES start doing something about that.
We're a rare situation down in Concord, but we're not the only ones who are having a problem. So the thing is they're aware of it, they know that we're trying to work at this. So it's not like, they're not breathing down our necks yet. I mean, I don't know when they might all of a sudden say, okay, yeah, we're,
But there are current
Right.
problems because businesses that thought that they were sort of like grandfathered in under a certain usage, they had to qualify with the state for the licensing, and now they're like less than half of capacity that they were before when it was a business, because DES is trying to come into compliance. Meanwhile, those 14 seats that they're losing isn't gonna do it. And a business is really restricted, and they're gonna just do any application that goes into DES right now is gonna be instantly denied because.
And that business can't install their own septic to come up to compliance.
Even if they do, they still have to pay the.
right, so they would still have
The
to
monthly
continue to pay.
fees.
If they wanted to continue to pay the quarterly charge, or yearly, or fee to basically be on the system, they would have to just keep paying that. But the thing is there is other businesses as well who are
Yeah, well,
trying
they-
to.
Disconnected.
Yeah.
I think a good question would be if you completely disconnected from the system, do you have to pay the fees?
Yes.
Yeah.
You would have to continue to pay the fees, or the
That's
money
what-
that
that
was
was one-
borrowed
It
would
was
have to be
changed in the
returned.
deed.
That was
all
one of
the
the problems.
properties.
That was
Right.
one of the contingents when they
Signed up.
signed
Took
up
the money.
to make sure
To make
people
sure there
didn't.
will be funding coming forward.
Basically go, okay, thanks for fixing the system, and we're not gonna pay.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty
The-
sure when people changed that deed, that they kind of thought that their septic needs were gonna be met.
Right.
Well, right, I mean, and the thing is that the reason for having the minimum amount that's supposed to be paid per quarter is to build up a fund, so that way if there is ever another failure, there's money to cover expenses to do that, take care of it. So that was more or less the reason for it. It's not, the state was sort of like, we don't really need the money back, but it's a contingency to keep people paying, so that way we can start to build a reserve of funds to be able to fix a problem. Of course, we don't have the funds. If something is to
Right, I
go
was just
catastrophically
right.
wrong, I mean, the commission only has about $50,000. That's what we got.
So if you, so I'm looking at your $30,000 conceptual design, engineering design and permitting. Has your committee, your voluntary group already entered into any conversations with landowners on this side of the river that might have property? When does that come into because you can have a great plan, but if there's nowhere to put it, what do you
Well,
do?
that's kind of part of what this feasibility is to see,
Okay.
even if it's impossible to do it without necessarily saying, hey, we'd like
And then
to.
you know what size
They'll
parcel
look
you
at
need
town
and
land,
everything
I believe
else.
first, town owned, so they
Right.
don't have to.
Not
you
that
know,
there's,
go to a private property owner, but I mean, the feasibility study hasn't started yet, so.
So
That's what
feasibility
would
study-
happen in the conceptual
That's the
phase.
conceptual
The
phase.
conceptual, and it's possible the conceptual phase will come to the conclusion that there really aren't any options
Right.
worth doing engineering on. That's entirely a possibility.
So you might spend the 5,000 or whatever.
You might spend the
and then
5,000,
the-
then you don't have
And
to
then
spend the
they shut it down.
25,000, it just depends.
Or they say that the real feasibility is to expand that other system somehow, or.
We can't do it.
Well,
I mean, yeah,
we have to see what the feasibility study comes back with.
it's more or less to see what are our options? What really are the ways that we could try to get this into compliance first, obviously, and then moving forward to have space.
How did you come up with that, the amounts, the 5,000 and the 25,000?
It was, so we sort of used a couple sources that the feasibility came sort of from the transfer station. They said that it cost them around, I think it was 27, am I correct in that ballpark? Well, yes, and we
Yeah,
contacted
HEB.
HEB engineers, and they gave us a rough estimate as
And
to
he
what
was
it
gonna
would be.
come tonight, but his son's birthday.
But I think if the select board did proceed on this, the thing to do would be to write an RFP and actually put out a proposal, and then competitors would come in.
Yes, Linda.
I have a question. In this whole thing with the sewer, I thought that all the money is supposed to come from the 27 users and not be any cost to the town. If you're using ARPA money, isn't that for the whole town, not 27 people?
This isn't for that septic system.
Right,
It's
this would be a
a
new,
way to come into compliance with DES, so it's a new system. That would be the feasibility
That
study.
would still only be for a certain number of people.
But the point is, it might be 27 people going to the bathroom or washing their hands, but it's impacting all of us in town if the library, the history center, the other store, whatever the Lyceum's gonna
Town
ever do, the
offices,
town, if none of the downtown has an opportunity to grow even a tiny bit, or is actually being pushed backward because of these caps, then that impacts all of us. And I mean, I understand that decision was made, and God knows whose feet were held to what fire when they made that decision, because it wasn't very far thinking.
I don't think it was very far thinking to take over the septic system as a town, but here we are in this predicament.
And we have a town that can't grow because we have a septic system that doesn't work.
Well,
So
and we have
it's
a
a
Sounds
bad
like-
town
situation.
obligation to come in compliance with DES too.
Yeah, I'll take
But
one more.
I mean, the 20, it's, you're gonna have like a new system, but it's gonna be hard to take the ones on this side of the river off that. It's all in everybody's deeds. They're gonna still have to pay into that system for that one to survive, because they couldn't survive on just a handful of people on the other side of the river.
well,
The
so
whole idea of the deeds, I think, is so that you have a big enough group that they're all paying in.
Yeah.
If you let people off it, then you may end up with 5 or 10 people on it, and they're not gonna be able to support it. Or
And
be able to
Linda,
And that's a
afford
good point.
I honestly see this as part of the feasibility study, so the person would understand the whole issue, because
Yeah.
I see a possible solution being that new septic somehow offsets for those users their fee to the other system. So that it still is,
the thing is.
I mean,
it
it's
would-
complicated, but it's a complicated issue, it really is.
It's more or less that this would be a new design system that at one point in time would be connected into one system together. So it's more or less building a new system to be able to use the funds that we need to be able to use to do it. And then sort of, I don't know if it can work in that fashion of then bringing it to the town as saying it's now part of the town system that exists. So the thing is that the whole system, or maybe it's 2 individual systems, and then each user has to go to one
This is
different.
why we need the
But
feasibility
this is
study.
that's what the feasibility is really supposed
So
to
that
do,
we
is
can-
to try to assess to
So,
see whether that
What
can
are you looking
happen.
for from us tonight?
Yeah,
Okay, I'm gonna say a couple things.
yeah.
Okay, I kind of represent economic development and I'm on this committee. And the thing is, I think all of us, as we've been into this somewhat, we would like it to be, we of economic development do not want to change the tenure or the look of the town or the use of the town. But I think that we all care about it not coming, as you say, it's going backwards. We don't have the Lyceum anymore. We could have a restaurant, they can't, forget it, they can't have a restaurant because they don't have enough water. or sewer septic system. And I think, and there was an effort before the planning board some time ago about having a little development of smaller homes that were on Greg's Way. There's a definite need in the state for more housing for people. Not that there's no way to do anything. We can't do anything. And so I guess that what we try to do in this committee is say, okay, the state doesn't allow the original group to have any grants whatsoever from federal or state. And I've talked to the DES person, and he's willing to help us with whatever we need. And he knows that we're going to talk to you all, and he said that it's important to get a feasibility study. And then it was also important for us to find out what would it cost for the other part, which is called engineering design thing. So therefore, it's important, I think, for the town to say, what do we do to help our town be able to grow? And if this is a way that could make that happen, by exploring how we would have a separate system that isn't under the auspices of what they're saying are the rules for the old system, then that might be the only solution. And that's why we're trying to come up with how do we do it. And that's why we're here.
I'm very supportive of the concept. My only caution is that we have, there are some ARPA funds left over that are not obligated yet. $147,000 and change. I would propose an agenda item at our next meeting to look at whatever possibilities there are on the table to use that money and make all those choices at once. Because I know there's at least one other idea because I put it on the table. So I wouldn't want to vote on one and realize next week, oh, maybe we should have picked this other one. But the concept, I'm very favorable toward the concept, and I think it's a great idea, and I hope we can fund it.
Thank you.
Did you, Emily, put that on so it's next week's agenda item to talk about how to spend the ARPA money? Sure. Thanks.
And I do just want to say, I do think that there's room for multiple issues to be held.
Yep.
One other thing too is
One
we
thing.
don't just have an issue with the septic and it's a private other company, but I don't think there's enough water in the village either because there's a water ban every summer.
Yeah.
So to add on to build the town, they can't hook up to the town water, I don't think, because I don't think there's enough water either.
So that's a good point. I mean, that's like, look at the big picture.
The DES person I spoke to discussed the water with me. And so he said that nobody who wants to do anything with the water could be approved by the private system at this moment, as at capacity. But he said the way around that isn't so hard. He said that if something or someone wants to add something, and they send a formal request in whatever way you do it, to say, I'd like to have more water, and once you get a letter back from the water company that says, I'm sorry, we can't, at that point with that letter, the person or entity has the right to drill their own. Which
Well,
is,
wouldn't that be the same as putting in their own septic?
Right.
Well,
So-
the difference
But
is
they
you don't
have
have
to
to pay
pay.
for it.
They don't
You
pay.
have to still pay
Because
for it
they're not a
while you're
user.
doing your own.
Right, so you basically would be told that you cannot join the system, but you're welcome to do what you wish to get water.
so therefore
So they'd pay for their own well.
you'd pay.
But they wouldn't pay for the water that they weren't using,
Correct.
whereas the
They
septic.
have to,
would
they have to
pay.
request it
How much
first.
does it cost for the
Yeah,
septic?
what is it annually?
The
Users?
total fee,
Everybody's
What's the
different.
typical?
Yeah,
What's the range?
our budget is 22 something, 22.
No, what's the average household fee
Oh,
per year?
fee? Around $600
a year?
a year, yeah. So I mean, that's about.
I guess if I was hard up for a bathroom, I would probably.
And if you get a
go to the
letter,
septic, but
if you get a letter from them saying, we're sorry, we can't
For the
allow
well.
you to have any more of our water, then you can not have to
Okay.
pay
A lot of
anything.
these properties don't have room to do that.
Right.
As you know,
And that's
the-
another issue,
I
is
mean,
that
the
there's
library
space or
has
ledge.
no land, the Lyceum has no land.
Yeah.
Katie has some land, but not enough for a septic system.
Right.
Nothing on Greg's Way has enough.
A lot of the places by the river don't,
You dig 6 feet
There's
in
just
water.
no place to build a system.
yeah.
So, and I mean, that's part of the thing too, is that, you know, I mean, so Remick, who was originally Remick Farm and the Barnstormers were originally part of the original design plans when it was presented back in 2000. And they decided to not join the system, which was actually really helpful because they technically were adding more gallonage, but their field is about 1,000 feet up Great Hill on the right. They're tied together in one system together. So they came to an agreement with one another. I don't know if it's written in their deeds or not, but they're on their own system and they have the space to do it, luckily. But I think both of them were failing. I mean, everybody was kind of in failure right around the same time. And so that's when they said, the Tamworth Village Association basically said, we're going to look towards building a municipal-ish type system.
Yeah.
So does that feasibility study, would part of it be looking at all the current users on the system and evaluating those lots for whether they could have their own septic system or not?
I don't know exactly. I mean, or if that's one of the options that we'd have to do is just to say, well, we need to basically boot people off that can be booted off.
Well, I'm thinking ahead
Yeah.
that if part of what you have to do is identify whether there's a parcel of land that can actually accommodate the size system that you're talking about, if you're adding a new element to the system, maybe one way to minimize the lot you need is to see if there are homes and somehow, like if we have to say, Carl, you've got a septic, the only way we can do this is if you go back to using it and the organization covers his $600 a year. I don't know, like whatever.
So, I mean, that would be the thing, is we would have to basically, anyone that we would remove, so say we'd have to put in a system for them, let's say $20,000 to put in a private system for the individual. We would then have to make sure that their fee is covered by the rest of the users. So the thing is that the rest of the users would be taking on, so you'd be reducing the pool of users, which would obviously increase the cost.
Yeah.
So the thing is now that $600 might be $750.
Right.
And then it's like, okay, so let's say you take 3 people off. Now you're $2,000
Yeah, I don't have the answer. I'm just
$2,000 a
saying,
year,
you
but
gotta
I mean.
put all these
So
pieces
I
in play.
see
And-
the feasibility study figuring out that whole
Yeah.
thing. Like, see what septic availability there is in town, what septic systems are in
So how
place,
much,
but
the
not being
feasibility
used.
study is $27,000?
No, that's the
No, that's the
$5,000 one.
It's the 5,000.
Is the feasibility study.
Yeah.
Just to basically see what it would, if we can do something.
And you're looking to see if we'll give you that out of ARPA
Yeah, because it would
Correct.
fall under the ARPA.
versus just paying for that out of the,
So this is a totally private thing. This is not including the Tamworth town system. This is coming strictly as us as volunteer residents who have come together to say we'd like to use the
See
ARPA
if
money
another
to
system.
try to do this system. This is totally separate of the current
Commission.
town
okay.
commission.
And then if the conceptual design was successful and there was an answer, then the further study of the engineering, design and permitting part, then that's the 25,000. But if they don't find anything that they can do.
Once the lot is chosen and
Yeah, but
it's like the next step.
if in fact they find that they can't do anything because of the conceptual design, then there's no need of the 25,000.
Okay.
So we're just asking to have both potentially, but maybe not use the big one if we can.
Yeah, and you'd need the engineering, design, and permitting process to go after grants.
Right.
If you're
Right.
gonna apply for a grant, you'd have to have
Which
done
the
that.
And there's-
sewer system now can't apply for.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
But a new project could.
Yes.
There's a capacity assessment supposed to be underway very soon. As soon as you hear anything on that, let us know, because we're very interested. Maybe we'll all get lucky and some capacity will materialize.
Well, then I found out that the distillery is actually grandfathered in for capacity. So unless a lot of capacity showed up, then
Even though they're not using it, he's not willing to play on this
They,
committee.
as long as, you can't take it away.
No, I know you
But
can't
yeah.
take it away, but I mean,
Yeah.
they've
It's-
shown interest in having it still be.
They've
grandfathered.
actually requested more. They would like
But like
more
the
on top of what they
house
have.
next door that Hillary lives in, it was vacant for
right,
forever. You couldn't take that away and give it to somebody else because now a family lives there.
right.
So you can't take something away.
It's a
But
zip
like the
tie.
restaurant isn't open, but they want to be grandfathered in as a like, I don't know, it's a complicated issue.
But they put they changed what was originally there, right? Like with the state, and that's why it like red flag.
Yeah, they have to go through a separate permitting process for their food activities there, and that's the people who they were getting that certificate from, then went to DES and said, should I give them this? And DES said no.
Yep.
Because we're at capacity.
All right. Any other questions?
That was as clear as a complex issue can be.
Oh, it's as clear as mud.
Yeah.
Where are we headed now? Oh, that's it for new business. Administrator report.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for coming in.
If you guys have any questions,
Discussion.
feel free to ask, we'll try to answer it.
Okay.
A couple of items I think were added, is that under new business or
Oh.
old business? Or
The stuff that we
The
had.
highway we did, the
police hiring and which we
police,
covered,
oh, the property sales
and
we
deeded
did.
property sale.
Oh, not onto administrator update yet.
Okay. It sounds like Carl, you got calls this week, I got calls this week. People are asking about,
Process.
the process, knowing that we have some deeded properties, in the town's possession. People are asking, what is our, process or timeline for, selling them? And I didn't really know what to say. That's the bottom line. I did ask, Christine, because I know there was some confusion when we were talking about, a past property that we sold a month ago. Like what we're required to do for steps, so I just reached out to Christine, and this is what she said. We can
Christine being
the
our
town
attorney?
attorney, sorry, yep, town attorney. The town can sell a tax deeded property and you can build into the purchase and sale any requirements you want. So if, for instance, a house needs to be cleaned up, that if the board believes that it is in the best interest of the community to have it cleaned up, you can build that into the purchase and sale, and you have whatever stipulations that she would figure out to enforce that. RSA 8080 limits the methods a town can use to sell tax deeded property, so how we sell it. You can do public auction, sealed public bids, you can list it with a real estate agent or broker. You can sell undeveloped property directly to the owner of an abutting property for purposes of merging it with the abutting lot, or you can sell it back to the former owner. So those are our 5 options for how to sell property if we choose to sell it, but we haven't talked about when we're looking at making those decisions. And I don't know if we have that answer, but I just wanted to bring it up that people are asking, and it should be something we should be thinking about how and what to do.
I don't think any of the properties we have are ready to be sold.
One of the requests that I had was someone interested in one of the properties and was willing to put money in escrow against, basically saying, if I don't clean it up in 90 days, you keep that money to go clean it up, and if I do, you give me the money back. And that was one of the things that the attorney said is fine to put into the purchase and sale. So if our intent is that a house needs to be returned to some sort of condition, whatever that is, we can build that into a sale. So I guess my question is, do we want to even entertain those kinds of questions from people? Or is there a reason we want to hang on to something and do cleaning out, fixing up, whatever ourselves? And again, I don't know if we have an answer tonight, but it should be something we should think about and maybe revisit next week, once we've been able to process it, so that we can know how to answer it, because these questions are coming up because people know about specific properties.
I think that the cleanest way to do it would be, either sealed bid auction or public auction. In the past, we've done it.
Do we have to
Public-
wait a certain amount of time to auction it? Like when we auctioned off all those properties, it was because a certain amount
No, it
of
was
time.
because you waited, you have to have you have to give a 90-day notice to the former owners telling them you're going to sell.
Yeah.
That's
So,
the only time
We
period.
did that more than 90 days before we did the last auction. We notified all the
Yeah,
previous owners.
but why had we sat on so many of them?
Because in the past, always did it public auction, so you don't just want to auction one property because it doesn't,
was
it's not
just
justifiable.
Having more?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's how I understood it anyway.
Yeah.
That's the only one I witnessed,
'Cause I
and
think
it
there
seems
was a
like they were sitting on it for a
auction-
long time, so I just didn't know if there was.
I think
think
there
they
was
said-
an auction in like 2014, so it was, and that could be wrong. For some reason, I think it's 2014, and then it was 2022.
Yeah.
So, but we don't. I think a sealed bid would, I don't know. I think that
We
the
have to
bidding
put it
process is the way to
Out to
do
be
it.
bid though, right? I mean, that's the way to do it, publicly put it out to bid, and then
Like
see.
we do it like we did with the property we just,
Yeah.
put out the details.
Mhm.
You determine if there's a minimum, we can set a minimum if we want to, we don't have to. Anyway, we don't have to have a decision, but could you be thinking about this so we could bring it up again next week and maybe have think about all the implications of selling things sooner than later or waiting. I just think there's interest in a couple of these properties by a number of people. And I don't know that, if there's no downside to having us move faster, if there's no legal downside, if there's no added benefit to the town to hold on to things longer, I think it's one more thing that we don't have to be managing right now, drawing out. So it would be great if we could percolate on this a little bit and bring it back up.
Yes, Linda.
The auction that was held last winter, I mean, wasn't everything sold like as is? I mean, if it was.
Yeah, it
a
was
mess or
sold
whatever.
as.
And I mean, and if you wanted to have an auction and you just sell those properties that you're talking about as is and just have a stipulation that if it needs to be cleaned up, but why should the town be going out and spending money to clean it up? Let whoever's gonna buy it.
Well, some
Well, those,
of the properties can
Easy
be
feedback.
also safety concern.
right.
I would say if it's a safety concern, it's smart of the
I
town
mean, the
to.
town
Clean it
still
up.
isn't gonna make a profit from it.
No.
Because they have to.
Not a profit,
take
but the
taxes out of
fees
it.
that are spent to clean it up will be reimbursed upon sale. It won't cost the town to clean it up, it will be reimbursed.
And so that's what I'm
We can set a
asking us to
minimum.
think about, like, in some cases, maybe if, in one case, there was a property that the health inspector condemned for a variety of reasons. That seemed like a safety issue, so the town moved on cleaning it up. Not all properties are like that, so you could build into the purchase and sale.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just in this whole conversation, was it ever put out to bid to clean up these properties, or did you guys just
Yeah.
pick one company?
No,
No,
It went out to bid publicly in the paper?
oh, no, we didn't do that.
No, but we didn't have,
No.
we don't
but we
have to.
contacted 3 people, I mean, we did it how we're supposed to do it.
I just never saw anything.
Yeah, I don't think we did put it out to bid, and I think that the attorney said we didn't have to for this kind of work.
Yeah. Is that it?
Yep, thank you.
Moving on to, that's it for new business, right? So moving on to the administrator report.
Okay, the recreation coordinator job has been posted on the website, in the Conway Daily Sun, and on the Tamworth Exchange. So far, no inquiries. We will add it to Indeed this week. Map and Lot 215-01, biohazard team was there on Monday to start the cleanup of that property. And the yard has been cleaned up. All the debris has been started to remove, and that's scheduled to be finished this week.
Great.
The vault renovation, that went really well. Everything is all done. We've got all the files moved back in there. We gained a lot of space. The only issue is that the lighting isn't ideal. There's the way that the lighting is set up, it's very dark on the corners and hard to see the files. So one of the things Tim is doing is getting a price put together on what it would cost just to add some lights to the sides. The town officials email, that went really well this week. We had 12 people show up and get all signed up and set up with their new email addresses. And we're scheduling another session for next week for all the people who couldn't make it.
Great.
Do you know when that will be yet?
Yeah, Thursday, I'll send out,
Okay.
or I actually did send out an email today. Thursday from 1 to 3. I might have forgotten to put the select board on that email, but you guys already have your emails.
Yeah. I'm just having trouble getting it on my laptop. I have it on my phone,
Oh, sure.
but I can't get it on my laptop until somebody resets my password.
Okay. I'll
And
schedule.
Outlook won't let me reset it. It said
Okay.
the administrator needs to do that, which is not me.
Okay. Well,
Whoever our
Thursday
tech guy is.
between 1 and 3, I'll send you the email.
Cool.
And then RFQ increase for the transfer station. Had a couple companies call this week, sent them the information they needed, the packets. So I think at next week's select board meeting, you guys will open those.
Open bids.
Yep.
So you have had a couple of inquiries.
Yes,
Great.
2 companies. One of them met with Glenn on Tuesday. And lastly, the account balance is $3,578,238.
Thanks, Emily.
Is that it?
That's
For-
it. Unless you guys have any questions for me.
No. I
Is it
think we're
going
good.
well?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Great.
Yeah, it was a little not the ideal week with vault renovations
Oh,
and
yeah.
meetings, but we're getting through it just fine.
It seemed like a lot.
Yeah, it is. But Kathy's super helpful, and we're getting through it.
Great.
Onto the signature file. We need to amend the minutes for September 15th, right?
You're making a motion to amend the minutes?
To add Jim Diamond to the.
I make a motion to amend the minutes, the Selectmen board minutes for September 15th, 2022. To add Jim Diamond,
Second.
roll call vote.
Did we vote to approve these, or is this the vote to approve them?
This is the
It's a
vote to
amend.
amend.
To amend them.
Did we approve them already?
No.
No.
We couldn't.
No.
So I'm gonna amend it before we approve them?
I have to add Jim Diamond to the.
I
No,
understand
we-
the issue.
No, you have to amend
We
it,
can
then we
amend-
approve we approve them as amended.
Okay. So we're doing like 2 motions we could do it for 1, but you said yes.
You
There it
could
is.
do it, Emily. Goodson, yes.
Prentice, yes.
Roberts, yes. 5 yes, 0 no. I make a motion to approve the Selectmen board. That's gonna throw me off. I keep wanting to say Selectmen board. All right.
Say it.
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for the select board on September 15th, 2022 as amended.
Second.
Roll call vote.
You said yes?
Very yes.
Goodson, yes.
Prentice, yes.
Roberts, yes. 5 yes, 0 no. I think we should hold off on the Rickards Auto Salvage proposal
Until next week.
until we discuss more on, what we're thinking
About how to
as,
sell.
as far as the tax deeded lots.
Okay. So we'll
Um,
table it.
So, do I need a motion to table that? Yeah, we just don't have to do it,
No, we
right?
just don't have to do it till next.
All right. I make a motion to approve the account payable in the amount of $433,936.87.
Second.
Roll call vote.
You said yes?
Very yes.
Goodson, yes.
Prentice, yes.
Roberts, yes. And now that I didn't add discussion, why was it so high this week?
I'm sure the
There's a
school.
school
School payment?
Yeah. Still a lot more.
Yeah. The school payment's only what, $250?
Only.
Oh.
Because there's no paper.
There was I'm just curious where the other,
Big number item.
To make sure it's not a typo.
yeah.
143,000 more.
Maybe just a couple departments had some things come in and it added up.
It's just weird, I don't see any other like huge numbers. Are
Am
we
I
sure
gonna
it's
say on that?
433,000?
No, I basically just, Elaine
Yeah.
gives it to me to give to you guys.
You might
Want
not
me to
want
just look
to.
at
How much was it
You've
last
already
year?
Let me look real quick.
Because the school payment's 250,000, so that's almost another 200,000, which is pretty significant. I didn't see any.
So school's 250.
I just don't want to approve it and then have it be wrong.
But you just did.
We didn't.
No, we didn't
We
vote
can-
yet. We haven't
Yeah. No, we did vote actually, but I can resend it.
even, regular
I
checks,
don't think we did.
280,000.
Yeah, we did, and then I had
It
a
was just
discussion after the
seconded.
fact.
We just seconded, we're in discussion right now.
No, you,
No, we did the roll call vote.
Did
you
we?
you voted,
Yeah,
and then
and then I-
we should have discussed.
I should have done this before.
Okay, we
Anyway,
can pull it out if you want.
Yeah, we can always-
But, before you do that,
I don't want to go through and add everything up.
so
but-
we've got the school district is 250. Register totals, 280,000.
So that means it would be like 30,000 on top of the school,
Yeah,
of AP, but.
yeah.
This isn't the interpolator checks, is it?
Oh,
Is that what it
yeah,
is?
where are those?
Yeah, I think that is what it is.
Because they were,
The interpolator checks that
yeah,
were from
That
tax
Elaine-
deeded properties.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because that, I have those totals.
so they were, one was 130, one,
130,000.
yeah, one was, that's exactly what it is.
Okay, well
Yeah,
that makes
I
me
think
feel
that's
better.
exactly what it is.
But,
So what did you call them?
I mean, I don't know what I'm really saying. Interpolator checks
Yeah.
that Lane's bringing to the court tomorrow. They're the checks that are going to
Outstanding.
yes, heirs of
Yep.
tax deeded properties.
Yep. The 3 different properties in town.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Really
so,
good to remember that. Yep. That's exactly what it is.
Tax deeded properties that had sold and the town
The
was
extra.
reimbursed and
Yeah.
the
because
The town has
extra
to
goes
pay
back to the
back the previous owner
Once we cover our costs.
once our costs are covered. Yeah. Thank you. I'm trying to think of the
So
wording.
that's
Alright.
from the auction from before?
I believe so, because these weren't new properties,
Last
these were.
yeah,
And
Yep.
it's going to the Supreme Court to find the owners and where the money needs to go, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Or
So
at
it's like.
Or at
the-
least
court's
they
dealing
sit
with
there
it now.
until
Right.
they get to the heirs.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and then,
are sure of that?
no,
We're sure
we
that
are
the
now.
money,
We signed the checks today. We can go look on Elaine's desk in that file and see that the check stubs are right there.
yeah, if you want, I can get them.
I think it just threw us because it wasn't listed in
In
the
this.
accounts payable. It was a separate, so in our minds, it was a separate issue, but it is still part of the money that went out, basically.
It's kind of like a read file thing, like maybe before you vote, you should maybe read this. Don't know, somebody.
On
Move on to the next
to
item.
our year-to-date, $6,148,949.28, and on to the Selectmen's update with Richard.
We had a transfer station improvement committee meeting earlier this week. Kelly was there. The RFQ for the transfer station improvements went out to 61 firms, engineering firms in New Hampshire. And the responses are due next Wednesday, I think it is, the 28th. So I've asked to have it be put on our agenda for Thursday to do the bid openings. And one thing we should think about is exactly what do we do then, assuming that we get some bids. We can sit there and deal with it right then, or have a separate meeting, or the board could seek input from the Transfer Station Improvement Committee to go into the responses in detail and do the rating, because if you recall from the RFQ, there's a rating system. So the Transfer Station Improvement Committee could take a first shot at the ratings and then bring it back to the select board. So there's various ways that we could deal with it, assuming that we get more than one. So we could either decide right now or at least think about it, but at least it should be on the agenda for next Thursday to do the bid opening.
I think either way, we should have people from I mean, yes, I know you're on T-SIC, but there should be more involvement in the process. Whether that's that the committee takes it and does the vetting and brings it back to us with a presentation, or whether we have a combined work session to go through the rubrics.
I think it would save the select board time if we took a shot at it on the Transfer Station Improvement Committee and then hand it to you and just, but at least we can do the numbers and then you can make the decision. Because the decision is here with the select board. But it's up to you as to whether you want to have the committee assist or not. I mean, if there's 15 or 20 responses, I think you're going to need that support. But if there's 2 or 3, maybe it would go quickly. You don't need them.
And we had said we would invite Willie into that bid opening.
Well, that'll be a public meeting, and I think he's planning on being here.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that was the transfer station. The other, every Wednesday, the New Hampshire Municipal Association has the good governance training. I think it's 7 weeks. And I learned a couple of interesting things yesterday. One was about, I've seen this before, a lot of boards, if you weren't at the meeting when the minutes are approved, you feel compelled to abstain from approving that minutes. You don't need to abstain. You certainly can abstain because you weren't there if you want to, but you're not compelled to. If you want to vote to approve the minutes because you're simply acknowledging that the meeting happened and you want to vote that way, then you can vote that way. You don't have to abstain because you weren't there. So that was interesting to learn. And there was also discussion about what an abstention means. It's certainly not the same as recusal. Recusal, you're out of it, the discussion altogether, and you should probably maybe leave the room. But by law, there was a 1953 state Supreme Court decision that indicates that if you abstain, you're essentially voting with the majority. So just kind of be aware what abstention means. It doesn't mean you weren't there or whatever. You're choosing not to vote, but if the vote gets tight, there have been instances where an abstention can just be thrown in with the majority vote. Which seems, I can't think of any instances where that would happen here, but I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
So I guess there's been a lot of, if it was a 1953 state Supreme Court case, there's been a lot of discussion about it for decades. And you'd think it would be a very simple thing, but I guess it's not. So the topic for this session on Wednesday was having effective meetings. And a lot of the discussion was around public sessions and non-public sessions, a lot of questions and answers. And people would refer to a non-public session as a non-public meeting. And just, the trainers are very clear, there's no such thing as a non-public meeting. All meetings are public, and within that public meeting you can have non-public sessions.
Because it doesn't stand alone.
Right. You have to have a public meeting, and then you can have sessions. But they caution, don't ever refer to it as a non-public meeting, because there's no such thing. If you have a non-public meeting, then you're violating the open meeting law. There was a lot of discussion about public comment. And both in our 91A training we had at the townhouse and in the good governance training, they made it very clear that public comment is for input and we can seek it when we want it. But it's not, public comment is not the same as debate. And they cautioned everybody in the training to minimize exchanges and certainly don't have arguments with people in the middle of a public meeting. But the reason for public meetings is for the board, whatever it is, school board, select board, planning board, whatever, to do the work that we need to do. And it is appropriate and right for us to seek public input when we do that. but it doesn't necessarily have to be a conversation. We decide when we seek public input, and we don't even have to have public input or public comment on every agenda item. We choose to do it that way, and I think it's a good tradition, but it's a tradition. It doesn't need to be that way. One thing that I think would be a good improvement we could do is make it more clear to the public that when the chair says any discussion, he means discussion among the board, not the public. Public input or public comment is separate, and we can seek that when we choose to, and we tend to at every agenda item, which I think is a good thing. But I do think there are times when I'm holding back because the board members are talking and members of the public jump in, and it shouldn't be that way. The chair should decide when the public's talking, and it should be when we specifically choose to have that input. And I think then we'd be able to do our business a little more effectively. So it was an interesting discussion, a lot of question and answer about meetings. I think there's been a long history of bad things happening with meetings and we've all talked about it at the 91A training. So I think having additional training on it helps reinforce those ideas as to, where do you have to post it, how often do you post it, the minutes have to be posted within this many days, and all those things that I keep hearing through the various trainings. It's good to know that we are following the proper guidance. So that was good for me to hear.
Was there anything in the effective meetings about, like including technology and Zoom?
That was covered both in the 91A and in this, and it was identical. To have a public meeting, you need to have a quorum in the room physically, and we can choose to allow board members or the public to participate remotely, but it's not required. Particularly when board members are unavailable or the public, it's good practice, but there's no requirement whatsoever.
Okay.
And I'm not even sure how common it is. I think because so many bodies had to do it during COVID, it's become very common, but I'm not sure if others have stopped doing it. I don't really know. But certainly there are a number of people that I ran into that only participate remotely, either through the live Zoom or they go watch the tape, a week or a month later. I'm really surprised how many people are participating remotely, so I think it's a great addition. That's it.
Thank you. Carl?
Got nothing.
Thank you.
I think Richard did a really good synopsis of the Transportation Improvement Committee meeting, so I'm gonna let it stay at that. I did just want to announce that I'm going to hopefully be attending the LRPC meeting in Laconia on Monday, and it's all having to do with the housing crisis in New Hampshire right now. So if any of you have a question or information or anything that you want me to bring to that meeting, I just wanted to let you know that I'm planning on being there, finding out what they have to say.
I would love to know anything they're talking about for ADUs, accessory dwelling units, or home share. Those are cropping up.
I've never heard that phrase.
So accessory, it's provided for in statute, and it's
More than one home on a lot kind of thing?
it could be like an attachment to your home, or it could be like a conversion over your garage, or an in-law apartment, a tiny house. But there are regulations around it. The state has recently loosened up the requirements to try to make this more of a common thing, and has been putting money into towns with zoning that's been restrictive to try to get them to. It's an easier way to provide housing.
Okay,
Yeah.
I definitely will ask about that or bring back information about that for
Thanks.
you. That's all I have.
Leanne?
We had the planning board work session last night for the review of the subdivision regulations, because those are being revised and updated. Lively, interesting conversation. I never thought I would say it, but those two planning board work sessions have been some of the best meetings I've been to. So interesting. The personnel surveys are starting to come in. I sent out a reminder to the department heads to encourage any town employees to submit the surveys. The information's so far that I've just been getting, really interesting, so those will, those are due on Monday, and then Tuesday we have a personnel committee meeting to start to digest what folks have said. That's it.
Perfect. Nothing from me this week, I don't think. And no, nothing from me. Public input?
This is Maureen. I want to thank Meredith and Robert, since he's still there in the audience, for a very quick response to an email earlier. Well, I guess it was a week ago. Just thank you very, very much.
Good.
He was very attentive to the request.
You're welcome.
And I'm really impressed with the discussion about the sewer commission. There's always more to learn. And I appreciate the input from Rob Farnham, certainly, but it's clear that a lot of you have done a lot of thinking and a lot of work about it too. And Kelly, you seem to be really working hard on this issue too, behind the scenes. So thank you very much. That's it.
Thanks.
Is there any other public input?
Yeah, I do. I think it was supposed to be on the agenda tonight to accept the money from the state and for the bridge. Can we try to get that on next week?
Is that why you?
Well, that's why I stuck around, because I got it from Keats 2 weeks ago,
Yeah,
an email that we were gonna have it tonight.
because it has to be hearing,
Yeah,
so it's gotta be noticed as a hearing.
yeah.
Okay, so what do I need to do?
We have to have a public hearing to accept the grant funds
Funds, yeah.
for
For the highway and the bridge fund, for the money.
for the Scott Bridge.
Yep.
right?
Well, no,
Or-
it's just, it's 108,000, 107,000. You just have to have a public hearing for it to accept
It's,
it.
we don't have to, we don't have to, we
Allocate it.
we don't have to allocate, we
Okay.
just have to accept it and let him
Accept it.
spend
It's
it.
just, it's a,
As
Okay.
unanticipated funds.
Unanticipated.
yeah.
Yes.
That's the word.
Yes.
Yes, which is why there has to be hearing.
Yep. Sorry about that, Richard.
Sorry,
Well, it's
Richard.
all right.
Um,
We're gonna
I
wait.
thought you were just hanging out because it was
That was
interesting.
interesting. It was good hearing everything.
Yeah.
could, is it possible to move session 4 to session, like, move these around? Is that doable?
Yeah.
Could I have you stay for the first non-public?
Sure.
Okay. So I make a motion, there's no other public input. I make a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91-A:3 2C. And we're gonna move session 4 first, and then non-public under RSA 91-A:3 2C, session 2, and non-public RSA 91-A:3 2A, session 3.
Except for I think we already had session 1, so isn't it
Yeah, so it's gonna, yes.
2, 3, 4?
So I moved 4 around. 4 is gonna be first. I don't know.
4 is gonna be
that's how I do
2.
that.
Yeah.
4 is gonna be 2, but they're
Yeah.
both C. So anyway,
Second,
roll call vote.
you said yes?
Yes.
Dixon, yes?
Prentice, yes.
Roberts, yes. 5 yes, 0 no. We are in non-public at 7:32. I make a motion to come out of non-public at 8:11 p.m.
Second.
Roll call vote.
You said yes?
Yes.
Dixon, yes?
Prentice, yes.
Roberts, yes. 5 yes, 0 no. We are in non-public at 8:11, and I make a motion to adjourn.
Undisputable.
No ceiling?
And minutes are not sealed.